Mark, we were talking about this. You were the defense attorney in a very high-profile case. I followed it. Many of you have probably heard about this because look at this photo right here. So this is the case against a former Florida sheriff's deputy, Scot Peterson. There's Mark with Scott. Scot Peterson, if you remember, he failed to confront the gunman at a Parkland high school 5 years ago where 17 people were killed. Now, you successfully defended Scott, who was found not guilty of child neglect, negligence, and perjury. This is despite the fact that the court of public opinion very much is against Scott in this case, and how the judge, not guilty, or is it something besides not guilty?
No, the jury acquitted him on all counts.
Completely acquitted.
On everything.
Okay, so given that, and I know that we talked a little bit earlier about the victims' families, and I know that you have a lot that you emotionally have been feeling, but we have to hear from you, given the fact that a lot of people have pushed back on this.
Okay, I had pushback.
Okay.
He wanted to meet with me. He thought I might be his attorney. I didn't want to meet with him. I had been representing one of the victims. We were on the Today Show with Megyn Kelly. One of the victims, we talked about her horrible experience of using one of the dead kids' bodies to shield her from bullets. An extraordinary woman who I still mentor today, and she turned a negative into a positive. So I didn't necessarily, why do I want to meet with him? We were told he was the coward of Broward. But that's because his boss, Sheriff Scot Israel, yes, I'm not afraid of any civil lawsuits because the truth is the ultimate defense, got in front of the world and said, he didn't confront the killer. He should have done it, which led us all to believe erroneously. He knew where the shooter or shooters were, because we didn't know it was just one at the time, right? And he cowered it in the corner and allowed kids to die. That was the narrative pushed for 5 years. I don't blame the media because that's what was sold to them. So I was like, why am I going to meet with you? What? And then when we did meet, I said, if half of what you're telling me is true, I've got to be your lawyer. And everything he told me was true. I got to read in real time what he was saying over his police radio. Where's the shooter? Does he know where the shooter is? And sending the assistant principal into the office to look at surveillance video to find where the shooters were located. There were, we called 24 witnesses who heard the same shots he did, who could not tell where the shots were coming from because of the pronounced echo and reverberation in that area. They couldn't tell where to even go. So yes, if he knew where the shots were coming from, he would have been in that building. And those jurors got to hear witness after witness, credible, all saying they didn't know. They couldn't tell. We thought it was coming from the football field, hundreds of yards away.
Let me ask you this, though. You say you mentored a victim's parent. Yeah. What do you say to these victims' parents who you know and you look at? What do you say to them? And how do you feel?
And Mark's a father. Mark's a father.
Absolutely. And a good guy.
So when we heard of the shooting, we went around the table, and instead of our usual gratefuls, okay, what we're grateful for, we were so affected by what occurred 5 years ago that we all talked about it and what it meant to us. We had friends, we have family whose kids went to that school. It affected us all, okay? I have nothing but love for the families who suffered, to me, the greatest nightmare that I could ever envision. The difficulty of this case in 3.5 years is that I had to study everything that occurred, including photos of kids on the ground, and it was horrible. I can never get those things out of my head. But you do not do justice for the victims by doing an injustice against my client. And that's what it was about.
Wow. Powerful.